سألني أحد الزملاء برسالة إلكترونية أو برسالة مسجنج، يقول: لماذا نحن نستخدم نفس التكنولوجيا التي تستخدمونها وهي المسج والإنترنت للتواصل، ولماذا جمهوركم أكثر مما فعلنا؟ فأجبته برسالة: لأن جمهورنا يريد ذلك. فشكرا لجميع الحضور على حماسهم ومشاركتهم ورغبتهم في الاستماع والاستفادة من خبرات زملائنا العالميين. هناك شخص يختفي بين الجمهور، دكتور يوسف دربان. هل هو هنا؟ يوسف دربان ليس هنا، إذن نعتذر لكم. الآن حرصنا على أن تكون ورقتنا الأخيرة شخص يحبه الكثير ممن يشاركوننا في هذا المؤتمر، وكلكم تعرفونه بكتابه المشهور، إنه السيد رزق خان. فليتفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wish I could speak to you all in Arabic, but unfortunately I can't. Inshallah, next time I will. I want, first of all, on behalf of Jerry Timmons and Dr. Martin Hadlow and all the visitors who've come to Riyadh for this conference, to give a big warm thank you to the King Saud University, and of course Professor Al-Latman, the director, Dr. Al-Khulaibi, the Dean of the College of Arts, and Dr. Fahad Al-Khareji, who personally was in touch with me. Thank you very much for inviting us over. We're very honored to be here, and I'm glad my colleagues from around the world had a chance to see the hospitality and warmth of the people of Saudi Arabia, something I'm blessed to see regularly. I was also impressed when the organizers here told me that the work of this conference has been done largely by the students of the university. So I think we should all give them a big round of applause for their hard work. Now, I work for Al Jazeera English, and of course there was a time in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia when if I was saying I was with Al Jazeera, there would be more frowns than smiles. Of course, times have changed a lot, and I'm with Al Jazeera English, which I know many of you see, and I'm very glad that I've had very positive feedback. It's not only in the Arab world that the communication technology of Al Jazeera caused a social change. Of course, in America, we faced a lot of issues, a lot of problems. The thing I always point out is in America, there's a lot of confusion about a simple word, and that word is the. Of course, it's in Arabic, it's al. So somehow Americans have become terrified of the word the. Because if you stick al in front of everything, they become very scared. You have Al-Qaeda, Al-Aqsa, Al Jazeera, Al Gore, actually. And I always say there was Al Capone back in the 1930s. They were very scared of Al Capone. So of course, times have changed, and I think that people are becoming a little more open-minded about the international channels, international news. The reason I think Al Jazeera created social change using communication technology is because I think for the first time in the Middle East, it brought regional news. It didn't concentrate on just news in one area, but it brought together news from around the region. And of course, everyone watches Al Jazeera, even those who say they don't necessarily watch it. When I was at CNN and we used to cover stories, we would always get letters of complaint. And if we were doing a story, looking at, say, an Israeli issue, we would get letters of complaint from the Israelis, you don't like us. If we were doing something on the Palestinians, we'd get a letter from the Palestinians, you don't like us. And so we had the philosophy that if we upset everyone, we must be doing something right. As long as no one party is happy and the other one is unhappy. Now, as it happens, I was the first South Asian face, the first, if you like, brown man in front of the camera on mainstream BBC News. And things, of course, have come a long way since then. But it was the same at CNN International when I joined CNN after 8 years at the BBC. With CNN, again, it was their first sort of South Asian, non-white newsman. And it seemed to pave the way for others from the region to come and say, well, look, you know, I know you want us to be doctors and lawyers, they would tell their parents, but there's a brown man on TV, so we can all do it, which I hope was part of the change that took place in our own culture. And I used to have to defend the BBC and CNN as much as I have to defend Al Jazeera. When I was with the BBC, I'd be accused of British imperialism. When I was with CNN, it was American ideology. And of course, with Al Jazeera now, it's, well, sometimes total confusion. But it's important, I think, for us to realize that diversity in news is the only way we're really going to create some real global social change, not just social change in a region. And it's something I noticed that in newsrooms where there are people from different backgrounds, there's much more sensitivity to the stories. One of the big problems the Arab world and the Muslim world has had is that there hasn't been enough representation of Arabs and Muslims in the international news community. It's changing a little bit now with Al Jazeera English because we have quite a few Arabs working with us. But because of that lack of representation of the Arab voice and the Arab understanding in the international news industry, there was a lot of misunderstanding about the Arab world, and a lot has to be fixed. So I always say we need to take a fresh approach to the news industry if we want things to move on, and I hope that Al Jazeera English has created part of that wave. Because if you get stuck with the same old situation, nothing will change. And I see the change in Saudi Arabia too. In fact, talking of change and talking of being stuck in one place, I'm reminded of a story of a prisoner, a man who ends up in jail for the first time, and he is terrified. The first night, he's sharing a room, a cell, with another man. And when they switch off the lights at the end of the day, he's lying in his bunk in the jail, very, very scared. And then suddenly in the darkness, he hears someone shouting out a number, 23. And there's laughter from all around the prison. Everyone's laughing in the darkness. He's very surprised. After a minute, someone shouts out, 18. There's more laughter. And this goes on, that in the darkness, throughout the prison, someone shouts a number and everyone laughs. So finally, he can't contain himself. He asks the other man in the jail, why? What's going on? What's going on? Why is everyone laughing? He says, we've been in this prison for so long, we know all the jokes. So instead of telling the jokes, we just give them numbers. This way, we just shout